the Center for Inclusive Excellence. Today's brown bag is part of a series. Every Wednesday, we are talking about different programs and services across the Division of Student Affairs and Campus Diversity. So I'm going to put a link in the chat to the full series. Hopefully, I know some of you have joined us before, and hopefully you can join us for some future events as well. I also will come back at the end with a link to the evaluation form and ask folks to take a few minutes to do that before you move on to whatever your next probably Zoom meeting is. But with that, I will simply turn it over to Carol and Chelsea and let them take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and joining us today. My name is Carol Montero Adams. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I serve as the Director of Student Life and Leadership, and I'm co-presenting with Chelsea, and I'll ask her to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea Weiner, and I'm the Student Life Advisor in Student Life and Leadership, responsible for all of our leadership and community service programs.
Thank you, Chelsea. So today we're going to be talking specifically about the Glazer Center for Leadership and Service, and we'll start by talking about student life and leadership and our overall mission of the department. I do want to highlight that the Glazer Center is one of 4 areas within student life and leadership. In addition to leadership and service programs, we also have our student organizations and activities area, fraternity and sorority life, and commuter life. But again, today we'll be focused on our Glazer Center for Leadership and Service. Student Life and Leadership promotes student engagement, development, and success. We provide a balanced university experience for a diverse community through teaching, advising, and programming. And so there are a variety of efforts, as you can imagine, across each of the 4 areas. And today, as we talk about our Glazer Center for Leadership and Service, we'll really kind of dive into what are some of the efforts that we have around teaching, advising, and programming. So with that being said, I'll pass it along to Chelsea.
Thank you. So yes, as Carol mentioned, we are one of 4 different areas, functional areas within student life and leadership, and the outcomes or values that we have with the Glazer Center for Leadership and Service specifically are to create a sense of belonging, both on campus and in the virtual space. So we'll talk about some of the programs and how we've been able to transition those virtually and what they typically look like or traditionally look like and what they look like now. Also building community development, both on campus within our students, but also outreaching to the community. And we'll talk about that a little bit with our service components. Education and leadership development. So that's really woven throughout every single component that we have. And then of course, to create that home away from home for our students. So if we were in the Glazer Center right now, it's an area within student life and leadership, like an actual center. And there's classes that are being taught and student organization meetings and presentations that are had. So it's typically a bustling area. So what you see on the screen here are some of our signature programs and different highlights that we wanted to share with you. We're going to do a deeper dive into some of these programs throughout the presentation. But if you ever have any questions or want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to Carol and me at the end of the presentation or of course afterwards. So I'll review the leadership ones. So the SDSU Leadership Summit and Aztec Core Leadership Retreat, we're going to go into more detail there. But those are some of our bigger signature events that we hold. So the Leadership Summit is a 1-day conference, typically that we have on campus, bringing in around 500 different participants. And the Aztec Core Leadership Retreat is a free leadership retreat for students. Where we take a group of 50 students to the mountains twice a year and do leadership development with them. Quest for the Best Vice Presidential Student Services Leadership Award is the Vice President's Award, one of the top leadership awards that students can get on campus. And this is a great way that we can honor our students, but they love it because it's also a way that they get to honor their faculty staff that's made the biggest impact on them. So we actually call it a dual award, where each year 10 students, around 10 students and 10 faculty staff members are nominated and given this top honor. The SDSU Leadership Certificate Program is one of our most robust programs that we have. We have around 250 students that are enrolled in it. It's a free certificate program for students. And there's 6 different components, one of them being the leadership workshops, which we'll also do a deeper dive into later. And then other components like experiential learning, doing community service, having a leadership role on campus, taking part in Aztec Mentor program, and then they're able to submit a final reflection, either a paper, video, or online portfolio that really summarizes what they've learned, any maybe background of leadership that they've had, and then what they're going to do next with some of these this new leadership knowledge that they have. The leadership workshops, and I'm going to go more into those later, so I'll save some of that for later, but we do partner with our peer leadership consultant program. So this is a program for students. It's where they actually learn our leadership workshops, and they're able to present those to students in our leadership certificate, to different classes. So if you teach classes or advise any student organizations, we actually will come to your classes or student organization meetings and provide the workshops in those settings. So they're really given the resources to thrive in that. We also have a really small group of students that receive a Great Leadership Scholarship. They're traditionally called our Vice President for Student Affairs, and anticipating that name will probably change as our divisions have merged together, but where they get actually a full scholarship for up to 4 years if they complete different components and get some great advising. The LEAD program is one of ones I'm really passionate about. It was really born from the virtual world. So I started it this past summer, and it's a month-long series of really workshops, both educational and social opportunities for students to connect. So we had a LEAD program in June and one in July, and we had around 88 students actually get a certificate of completion. Around 120 students total participated in the program, where they went through, over the month, they went through around 9 different academic workshops and 4 different social workshops with each other. And then the last one is a partnership that we have with the College of Education, which is the SDSU Leadership Minor. So just like a minor, it's an academic minor where Carol and I both help to facilitate some sections within the minor, and the students really get that foundational experience when it comes to leadership, and they actually also are able to do a lot of experiential work with that. So Carol is able to teach the foundational class, ARP 205, which is also a GE, and that's a semester long where they learn really the fundamental foundations of leadership. And then I assist with teaching in ARP 403, which is where the students have a leadership role on campus, and we go over how to be successful within that leadership role throughout the semester. And I'll turn it over to Carol to talk about some of our service opportunities.
Thank you, Chelsea, and thank you for that highlight. As far as the service initiatives, there are a variety of different components that our team is involved with, and want to highlight a couple. So the first is our Aztec Unity Project Service Learning Events. These are activities that occur over a couple of day period of time where students have the opportunity to learn about a specific issue and then apply that through direct service with the folks that are also have learned about the issue with them throughout the course of the AUP experience. And so it's something that typically involves about 20 students who will serve in this capacity. This rotates in a typical year. This would be happening on a monthly basis. Obviously, given that we're in the virtual environment, this is one of the activities that we've had to kind of rethink and put on pause at this point, just given the in-person nature of the activity or activities. In addition to the AUP service learning experience, we also have and collect the service hours that are reported from individual students, whether that's through their organization or them as individuals over the course of the year. Last year, given that we transitioned to the virtual environment, students still reported over 66,000 hours of community service. Typically on a year, we would have about 80,000 or more hours that are reported. And so with the transition to virtual environment, we were still incredibly proud of our students for essentially serving their community, but also for the amount of hours that had still been reported in that space. So we're incredibly proud of our students. This also goes into part of the community engagement classification as it relates to the Carnegie Institute. And so want to acknowledge that our institution is deemed a high community engagement institution through Carnegie. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Chelsea.
So we did want to provide a visual for you. We always have infographics at the end of each year, so you can see some of our numbers that are spotlighted. I know it's a little bit small. We try to fit we do a lot, so we try to fit a lot of info into that small graphic there. But you can see some of the different items, like the number of students that have received the leadership certificate, that have graduated from the leadership minor, that have participated in Aztec Unity Project. There's the number of service hours that Carol was just mentioning. And in addition to that, I did want to spotlight another service area that we do, is that we reward students who have reported their community service. So as Carol mentioned, we house the official reporting of the university, and we really wanted to encourage students to do that. So for students, if they report 50 hours over their entire course of being a student at SDSU, so however many years that is, they get the community service certificate. And those who have reported 100 hours, and you can see there's a little picture, Carol's hovering over it there, of the lapel pin, but they get a lapel pin, and it has Hefner Hall and says 100 service hours, as well as a certificate. So we award those students. We host an Excellence in Student Life and Leadership end of year recognition ceremony, and that's where we give students their pins, their leadership certificates, their cords for graduation, which they get with their leadership certificate, as well as the leadership minor honors the students there also. So next we're going to dive into spotlighting a few of our larger scale leadership programs. There's going to be 2 different slides per program. So one is more of a traditionally looks like, and one is now what does this look like in the virtual world. I'm really proud of our office and of Leadership and Service for, I would say, successfully transitioning a lot of our programs virtually, and we're continuing to do that throughout the entire year. So the SDSU Leadership Summit is that one-day on-campus leadership conference. It's typically held on a Saturday in February, where we take over almost every room in the Aztec Student Union, and we have around 500 participants that are able to attend the conference. Obviously, it's always been in person, more of that very traditional conference vibe. And we are actually marketed or branded as the premier leadership conference on the West Coast. So with that, we opened it up to different institutions, universities, organizations to be able to join. And in the past, we've had around 15 different institutions joining us for that one-day conference. There, as you can imagine, it's a very traditional conference setup with different breakout sessions that the students can attend. So there's around 4 different sessions, and then each session has around 10 different workshop options for a total of 40 different workshop sessions that the students can select from. So we go over even some of the basics of how do you read a conference program and how do you select your sessions. What are some etiquette and networking that takes place during the conference? And a lot of times we've seen that this is the first conference that students are exposed to, so we're really happy to be able to provide that. We have a keynote speaker that always opens up the conference, or somewhere throughout, sometimes it's before lunch, where they're able to give that information to the students. And we also have featured speakers throughout. So the pictures I've included here on the screen are the conference covers, the program covers from our past 3 conferences. So we always have a theme for the conference. So last year we had Finding Your Piece in the Leadership Puzzle. So that bottom picture kind of with the word search vibe. And then the year before we partnered with Associated Students' theme of Leading with Heart. And then the year before that, we talked all about failure and how you can use that as, and revision that as a success. So what does this conference look like this year? So now I wanted to talk with you about what we anticipate it looking like virtually. So we are still super excited to host the Leadership Summit now just in the virtual space. So what we're anticipating that this will look like is actually have it be a multiple day conference. So typically it's 8:30 to 4. Of course, we don't think anyone would want to sit on Zoom for that long. So we're going to break it down and do a kickoff session, possibly with our keynote speaker then on a Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday have it be more of those traditional sessions virtually that the students would be able to attend, and then have a closing session on Sunday. And we're excited because we view this as actually an opportunity for growth. As I was mentioning, we're the premier leadership conference on the West Coast, and we've really kept it to the West Coast. A lot of it has been Southern California, where people can drive or take the train or whatever that might look like. But with it being virtual, we anticipate that we would be able to outreach to a lot of other schools and institutions just nationwide. So we're hoping that it's great exposure for us there. So that is our Leadership Summit. And next I'll turn it over to Carol to talk about our Leadership Retreat.
Thank you. So we're going to chat about Aztec Core now. I absolutely love Aztec Core. It is an amazing, really immersive experience for students, but I would also say for the faculty and staff who help facilitate. And so I know that I've gotten a lot out of being part of the retreat, not just kind of it just being for the students. So it's traditionally a 3-day, 2-night off-campus leadership retreat. There are a couple of retreat sites that we go to up in the mountains, and there is typically a November core and a January core. We have the ability to facilitate this opportunity for 50 students per retreat. There is an application process that students facilitate, as well as some pre and post assessments so that we have an understanding of what is the impact of the retreat. Again, it is free to students as well as the folks that are facilitating, and there is a combination of large and small group activities. So there's the opportunity to have some of those small group connections, the more intimate conversations about leadership, what leadership means to them, some of their typologies and how they apply that in their experience, and then also that large group facilitation as well as large group activities. We also have, weather permitting, the opportunity to have some more social time outdoors and experience really a different setting away from the campus community. So it's been something, as I mentioned, that has been incredibly rewarding for me as well, in addition to, of course, the students who have found it impactful. As we move into the virtual environment, some of the activities like the one that is pictured here on the screen, we're transitioning. So we have kind of shifted our thinking from being a 3-day, 2-night retreat to being more of a week-long activity where there would be a couple of hours per day as opposed to the intensive time, specifically to what Chelsea mentioned, kind of the idea of being on Zoom for that long a period can sometimes be challenging. We're also kind of shifting our timeline from being a weekend in November to, and then another weekend in January to really being focused on what times are students not in classes that we might be able to provide some additional opportunity. This is also an expansion of some programs that we facilitated a spring training event in the spring, over spring break this past year. And so we would be looking at focusing on both January, the time before classes begin in the spring, as well as spring break, to provide engagement opportunities for students, but also to think about when it might be more appropriate to host those experiences. And then we'll be focusing, of course, on that leadership development as well as the social bonding. We found that as we've shifted to the virtual environment, some of the things that have been amplified as needs for students are that idea of community and connection and continued skills development. And so this is a response to kind of both of those ideas and needs that our students have.
So we wanted to also, this is the last kind of spotlight that we're going to share with you, but all of our leadership workshops. So we are still hosting our leadership workshops. These are free workshops for students, and they're really open to anyone. So anyone who's interested in that leadership development, we encourage to join. We do just ask that students are able to RSVP at events.sdsu.edu. And the reason for that is we don't publish the Zoom links really anywhere. So when students RSVP, they're sent that Zoom link an hour before, along with any materials or resources that are going to be shared in the workshop. But these are workshops, as I was mentioning in the beginning, a lot of our peer leadership consultants are trained to present these workshops. I also present some of them as well to our different student groups. Our most popular ones are True Colors, Conflict Styles, and Time Management. So I'll do a short summary of what those workshops are. So True Colors and Conflict Styles are both personality assessment based. So the students take a short assessment at the beginning of the workshop. And for True Colors, they're given their top personality style. For Conflict Styles, they're given their top conflict style. And then they're really interactive. So we are utilizing breakout rooms in Zoom, and the students will partner with other students that have the same either personality style or conflict style as they do. They'll do a few activities that are really fun, like plan your dream vacation, and really seeing how they're able to interact and how their personalities will come out. And then they'll present their findings to the group. We'll validate and say, like, yes, this is typically what we see with someone with this conflict style or someone with this personality style. And then I think most importantly, we give them tips on how to continue to foster positive relationships with either their own style or with other styles. So for True Colors, we talk about the importance of diverse group spaces, some of the troubles that come along with groupthink. If you're just working with people that have the same thought process and same personality or mentality as you. And with conflict styles, we talk about some strategies of how to accurately and more successfully work with other people with different styles and some strategies behind that. Time management is more of a typical workshop that you might anticipate with time management, where we go over some tips of how to manage time and manage tasks, both in person, and we've also included some tips of how to do that in the virtual world. So from some of the basics, like here's how we suggest you set up your time management planner, to more of some of those complex topics of really how to not procrastinate, how to say no to others, some things I think, yes, are really important topics. I see that
I think Chelsea froze. I
Okay, I
still
wasn't
see.
sure.
Yeah,
It
Carolyn,
was-
I still see the thing moving around, so I'm pretty sure that's Chelsea.
Okay, perfect. So with that, I can kind of pick it up where she was leaving off. So I think she was referring to the comment in the chat about for staff. I know it is something that different departments across campus have requested different workshops for their teams. And so if that is of interest, that's of course something that we would be able to support. And so you're welcome to reach out to either me or Chelsea. Absolutely, all of wherever we can present, we're happy to do so. The other thing to mention, and Chelsea didn't mention this, is she's a certified strengths coach. And so for the Strengths Finder program, that is something that she's certified to do one-on-one kind of consultations, and so facilitates those for students as well, in addition to, of course, facilitating different workshops around that typology. And then I'm gonna just added her back in. Perfect, Chelsea. We just wrapped up about the different workshops, and we think that we might have some opportunities to facilitate for faculty and staff as well. Want to open it up as far as engagement opportunities. As we've gone through a variety of the programs that we have, we've talked about different ways that faculty and staff can be involved, and want to make sure that we're highlighting a few of these directly. So first, the Aztec Core Leadership Retreat. Every retreat that we have really depends on volunteers from our faculty and staff, and we're so grateful for the engagement that we have had and continue to have in this. Typically, the faculty staff who attend will be a small group facilitator. So they'll have one of those small groups where they're helping to guide the students on the path. There is a specific curriculum that we have outlined and that folks are trained on. And then they often typically lead a professional development workshop. So this is on a variety of topics and is typically based off of the expertise of the individual. So these workshops often change every retreat. The Leadership Summit, we do have a regional advisory board, so they review proposals and market to students. And then also our presenters and volunteers are built around faculty staff. And so really encourage folks to, if there's interest in submitting a proposal to present. As we have more specific information, we'll be certain to share it with the group. And then we have semesterly workshop series, our leadership lunch series. They're often presented by a variety of faculty and staff. And then our Quest for the Best, as Chelsea mentioned, this is an awards process that has been facilitated for more than 3 decades. And so we're incredibly proud of this process and typically engage faculty staff both to outreach to students to really start thinking about if they're interested in applying, but then also to nominate students as well. And then, as Chelsea mentioned, it's a dual award, and so that there are faculty and staff honorees every year as well. And so with that, we want to open it up to any questions and discussion that we'd like to have around some of the experiences within the Glazer Center, and just want to thank you all so much for attending today.
Hi, everyone. This is Liz. I have tried to be a somewhat consistent presence on these. I'm fairly new to the campus, and I just find these incredibly helpful to orient me and to learn about the incredible number of services and opportunities that there are for students on campus. So you said, obviously if there are volunteer activities, that would be something that how would someone go about getting involved in that way?
Is there a specific volunteer opportunity that you were interested in?
They all look great. I would, say, I guess, wherever the need is greatest.
Yeah, so I think one of the, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe what area? First, welcome to SDSU.
Thank you so much.
But what area that you work with?
That's so kind of you to welcome me. I work in the Military and Veterans Program, and we've just recently moved under Student Affairs and Campus Diversity. So we've traditionally been known as the Joan and Art Barron Veterans Center, but as it turns out, we do more activity on campus than is just encompassed with the center. And so I've been hired as a grant writer to help expand some of our programming, find hopefully some sources of more long-term and stable support. So, among the areas I could help students in might be, grant writing or fundraising or strategies like that, since in the real world, business development is pretty much only helpful. Nobody's gonna, gonna turn down somebody with that sort of experience or, who's able to bring ideas to the table in that sense.
Exactly.
But I joined in the middle of June. And so I actually interviewed for the position 3 days after y'all went on lockdown. So I haven't actually gotten to hang on campus yet, but I'm looking forward to that day, whenever that is. But, particularly, I've been looking at a lot of this. Sorry, I don't mean to dominate our conversation here, but we have over 4,500 military connected students. So, more around 800 or 900 veteran students who, are directly either active duty or, post their active service period. But then we have a huge population of spouses and children. So, any kind of dependence to somebody who was active duty. And I think with that, we have such a talented population, and they've already been exposed to some leadership training and development in the service. But I think following on to that with a lot of these opportunities that the center offers, it just really makes a lot of sense. So that was part of why I was particularly interested in this topic.
Well, welcome. We partner with your office a lot. I know Carol and I both work with Todd pretty closely. So
I'm now trying to help Todd out.
that is awesome. So I think one of the areas that we would love to collaborate with would be if you wanted to host a workshop. I know you had mentioned fundraising opportunities. Specifically, our student organizations are always looking for how to more successfully host a fundraiser or what that looks like. So I think that would be great. And then for our Aztec core, so for the retreat, if you wanted to get experience working with, so the retreat is both a large group and small group format. So with that, we oftentimes will have in person, we would have all 50 students in the room doing one activity with all of them. But then we typically have around 6 or 7 small group facilitators that will have around 7 students that they kind of nurture throughout the weekend, where they check in. Some of the activities might be a little bit triggering or a little bit difficult to digest for the students. So really working with them. We're hoping that translates pretty well into virtual with breakout rooms. So we're still looking for small group facilitators. We would love to have you on board if you're interested, and these students are fantastic. You know, it's all elective where they all apply and want to be part of the program. So we've seen that they're super stellar students, in my very biased opinion, of students that are really looking to engage and get involved. So we would love to have you be one of the small group facilitators. You know, we can add you to the list that we could float up for approval if interested.
Yeah, that'd be great. Definitely sign me up. Let me know. I'm sure that Todd will be all for it.
Perfect.
Thank you. I think another thing too is amplifying the message. We recognize that many of your students and the students that you work with directly are going to have a lot of experience as well as collective wisdom based off of the experiences that they've had, whether that's being military connected, active, or as having veteran status. And so as we're looking at the Leadership Summit and presentations, those aren't just for faculty and staff to present. We have student presenters as well. And so that might be a great opportunity for them to share their leadership experiences and what their journey has been too.
Absolutely. And I think any efforts that we can support that help students get involved in the greater population, I think there's, a wonderful sense of camaraderie among military affiliated students, but it's particularly important to Todd and many members of our center that we get our population out into the greater campus community, and not continue to isolate or, foster a sense of distinction or differentness, but rather, get to enjoy the whole breadth of offerings that are here. So again, I've been finding these series so interesting, and, I feel like we need to, anybody who's new, just try to really encourage them to, immerse.
Thank you. And I think one of the last things, I'm not sure what your structure looks like if you have times where all the students come together, but I know, gosh, I'm sorry that my internet went out right when I was in the middle of talking, but I was talking about the workshops, and if you ever had or wanted to host a noontime lunch series, we would be happy to come and present some of those workshops, especially in the virtual space. We can really have an unlimited capacity of students that can attend those. So
I love that.
Friday at noon, come stop by and we can make it a little bit more veteran focused or, veteran friendly focused as well.
That's fantastic. And we hold office hours every day. And so that's probably the most common way we're engaging with students right now, besides newsletter or, kind of some of the big email pushes. But I think any opportunity for people to come, and have some sort of sense of community during this time is a welcome addition.
Yes, well, get in touch with me if you're interested in any of those items, and I can put my email in the chat boxes.
That would be perfect. Thank you. And thank y'all for letting me take over this for a minute.
Of course, that's what we're here for. Thank you.